Right, so as mentioned, I want to talk about the attitude of the dog. So, again, this is going to be related to my indirect or catalyst link. So, I'll pop the link for that explanation in the comments. But anyway, all right, so here's the thing. It's a pattern that I've noticed. Never had the words to put to it. And then one of my teachers told me this. It's really cool. Right, so it's your attitude, right? Attitude of dog towards whatever. Okay, so here's the thing. We're going to use the analogy of a seesaw, okay? So most people's goals are to have a biddable, I think I spelled that wrong, ambitious, obedient, happy, whatever, dog. Okay, so we want this to be nice, awesome, dog's there, love it, cool. Now, here's the thing. If you go through those links, right, and let's say you don't understand your dog, you don't know really your dog, you're always looking from things from your perspective, your timing's off, you know, all these little nicks and crannies and cracks in our communication, whatever that we can actually fix, then you're going to have a dog that, you know, potentially always feels like they're losing. I can actually relate to this because even though a lot of my parents and teachers had this, you know, really good intention, it doesn't come across that way. So when it always felt like I was losing, you know, especially if I was like trying various different things, I didn't really see a lot of success and all that, then I became really kind of depressed, if you will. But before that, what happens is the dog can become fearful and inhibited and anxious. Okay. So if I have a dog that's like this, what you need to make sure of is you need to look at rewarding the dog. So you need to give the dog the understanding of predictability, which we'll talk about in wink, wink, nudge, nudge, the emotional matrix of the dog. So to balance that out, I have to give rewards, right? So I have to pay the behaviors we want, okay? That's very important. Okay, however, the opposite's also true, right? So if I have a dog, that's the opposite, right? So I've seen this with some people, you know, some kids where they never, like all bad behavior gets ignored. They never get a negative consequence. They never get disciplined, you know, like the minimal amount of effort, they get maximum output, whatever. We now have a dog that becomes demanding and willful. Sometimes we call it boisterous. Sometimes we call it frustrated. Brad, really. Okay, so I can't really relate to that specifically, but okay. And the only way to balance that out is to bring in discipline, right? Or punishment, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so discipline. So this is where we go, no. The behaviors that we find unsafe, inappropriate, all those sort of things is very important that we go, nah. But here's the thing. So again, if you just discipline all the time and you never pay the good reward, the behaviors we want, then you might create this. And if you only ever pay the dog but never discipline, you get this. That's why I do balance training. So the whole idea here is like we discipline the behaviors that are unsafe, inappropriate, whatever the case may be, whatever criteria you use, but we also reward those behaviors that are really good. The thing is, what discipline and reward looks like for your dog is different for a lot of dogs. So getting to know your dog as an individual is very, very important. But anyway, so this can be, if you're looking at the catalyst link that we spoke about earlier, so if you remember, I'm just going to do it here. So the catalyst and then consequence. What happens is if the dog makes the connection to the catalyst, that could be the human who's giving the consequence, making a good decision, you might find that the behavior that you're trying to change isn't making an effect, but it's actually just the dog super willful demanding with the human. If it's a bad consequence and the dog hasn't linked it to his behavior, the bad behavior won't change, but the dog could potentially become fearful, inhibited, and anxious around the catalyst, around the person, okay? And sometimes this is what happens with dogs. So that's a really good thing to be aware of, is your attitude of the dog towards, so what is the attitude you're looking at and towards what is it, okay? So I hope you guys find that very helpful.